Welcome to A Reason to Create. I'm your host, Samuel Prather. I've been away just dealing with life for a little while, but I decided that I was just going to dig in at our new spot on our new set and just get started with our next season of videos. So the first thing that I wanted to tackle just right off the bat is something that is very near and dear to my heart. Who doesn't love a great kick drum? I grew up on hip hop and go-go and music where that kick drum was really present. And when I listen to a recording or when I'm mixing and mastering, I'm always trying to get that real strong gut punch out of the kick. I'm just gonna dive right in and give you my 6 best tips to use in Reason or whatever DAW you might be using to produce and show you how to make that kick really just punch right through your mix. This might seem like it goes without saying for some of you, but don't pan your kick drum to one side or the other. For a lot of technical reasons that I don't want to get into right now, let's just take my advice on this and don't pan your bass drum off center if you're making a track where you want the kick to really come through. You need both sides of the mix to be balanced to get it up to the level that you want it to get that real thump feeling. Number 2, use a limiter on your kick drum. If you're not familiar with what a limiter is, it's a special compressor that's designed to keep a signal from exceeding a certain level of loudness. So if you slap one of these specifically on the kick drum channel, then what that's going to do is allow you to crank up that channel without passing a certain threshold. That's really important to getting a loud kick drum, because one of the biggest things that gets in the way of doing that is having different levels of kick, especially on a kick drum from a live performance. So a limiter is an aggressive tool, so you don't want to have this hitting too hard, but you definitely want to have a top volume that you know for sure that your kick drum is going to get to. Reason has an amazing limiter that's just sitting right there in the mastering suite that you can use, and it comes with the software. But any limiter that you have in your DAW will do the trick if you set it up properly. The main thing that you want to do is make sure that you check out the loudest points of the kick drum in your track and set the limiter so that it's only affecting that by a few decibels. Number 3, EQ. Now, sometimes the thing that stops you from hearing the kick drum is all the other frequencies that are happening at the same time. Now, you can EQ your kick drum so that certain parts of the kick sound comes through better. For example, your kick drum has a kind of pappy sound, like pep, pep. That sound comes in between around 3 to 5K most of the time on most kick drums. So what you can do is just give that particular frequency a little 3 to 6 dB bump up so that you can hear it a little bit more, that attack on the kick drum. Also, it might help in the bottom range to find really that principal pitch of the bass drum and kind of give that a little extra boost in the bottom, and that'll help fatten it up if it sounds thin. Now, the limiter that we mentioned earlier for step number 2 was one version of a compressor that we're going to use. But there also is another just regular compressor that we're going to use as well, but this one's going to be for placement. I have a whole separate video that talks about this in depth, but you can use a compressor to place an instrument in the front or back of your mix. How you accomplish this is for something that you want to sound like it's further up front, like a drum in particular, right? You're going to have a slower attack so that the sound gets through and then the compressor grabs it if it goes over the threshold. The opposite of this obviously is if you want the drums to feel further away, then you use a slower attack. And so it's going to catch the front of the signal and stop it from hitting as hard, so it's going to feel further away. Reason's M-Class compressor is great. You can set it up to 3 to 6 dB in terms of how much to take off, and just so you can feel it, but you don't want to overdo it. We want a lot of little steps here. We're not trying to do one silver bullet. Each one of these 6 steps is our way to kind of getting a little bit and a little bit and a little bit more of that punch and presence out of the kick drum. Now, this next one, number 5, is the special sauce. This is saturation. If you're not hip to what saturation is, just think about what distortion does to the signal of a guitar. Now, that sound might be familiar to you, but you might not know what it is actually doing on the technical end. Saturation is one of the most magical plugins that you can use because it has the double benefit of giving a punchier, more forward sound, making things sound louder, but it also makes things actual volume lower, which is bananas. I don't know how exactly it works, but it does. So you're welcome. Just like all the other effects that we've gone over today, you only need a little bit of this. Maybe push it past what it should be so you can hear when it's breaking up and it's too much, and then just back off of that. But there's a lot of room to get more volume and presence out of the kick before it goes past that point. The last thing that I'm gonna recommend is a little bit more advanced technique. It takes a little bit more work, but the benefits are great, and I'm pretty sure that most of the songs that have a really thumping kick are doing some version of this. What I'm talking about is side chaining or ducking. So what I like to do is send all of my other tracks that are not my kick drum or my snare drum or my lead vocal to a bus named ducking. Once I have all the other sounds sent over to that channel, I'm gonna put a multi-band compressor in line with it. And then I'm gonna use that multi-band compressor to clamp down on specific frequencies. In the case of the kick drum, when the kick drum hits, I'm gonna side chain that to this multi-band compressor so that only the low end gets compressed on all the other instruments when the kick drum hits. So when I take that 3 to 6 decibels away from all the other instruments in the track, when that kick drum hits, it's better than making it louder because it allows me to make it heard like it's louder without increasing the volume anymore. So most of the other things that we've done so far have increased the volume of one thing or another, or maybe compressor is going to make it sound like it's more in front versus being in the back. But this particular thing is going to add the perception of loudness without adding any actual loudness to it, which is really the thing that is the goal to making a good, strong mix. I did a 4-video series going in depth on how to do each one of these steps. If you want to check those out, then go on and I don't know which side it's going to be on, but just, click the link if you really want to get into the nerdy details of it. I'm Samuel Prather. If you learned something today, then please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you'll know when I come out with more content. Thank you for watching today. I hope I gave you a reason to create.